Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TableTakes presented by Gen Con. We are your hosts. My name is Christian. I'm joined today by Emma and Derek, and we're here to talk about games because, you know, Friday. That's what we do every Friday.
So Bonsai isn't here, but from what I understand, she's in space.
She's in space, yeah. You should go check it out. I mean, after this.
Yep.
But
Oh, right.
Because she has that like super long space simulation stream thing.
Yeah.
Well, in honor of her today, anytime we decide to make a very, blatant joke, make sure that you do finger guns.
Finger guns.
Otherwise, we're not going to know it's funny.
It's true.
you need that.
So, Bonsai, today, these finger guns are for you. We're going to move on with our agenda. We have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to get right to it, starting with Board Game Geek. That's right, Gen Con is coming up in just a couple short weeks, and Board Game Geek has put out, it's a lot to say, has put out their, every potential list of games that we could pick from to decide which ones we love.
It's all the stuff that's coming out at Gen Con.
Everything is coming out, right?
So on their page, they have a Gen Con release preview pre-order thing, and there's like 570 something titles on that right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot of titles.
It is a lot of titles. I have a feeling that you were going to say that some of those titles may have kind of already in some ways been released.
Right. Release is a very broad term
is.
in this case. So Planet, for example, has been in retail. It's been at Mox for months.
It's a
like
soft
at least
opening.
a couple of months.
Yeah.
Whereas other games, like my friends are working on a game called Calico, and that one's a preview. So some games aren't actually released and purchasable, but if you go to the list, you will be able to see which ones are available for demo, purchase, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I think a number of them allow you to pre-order through that list as well.
Yes.
So some of these games are being released, some of these games are on pre-order, some of these games are in a soft opening stage before their big grand opening release at Gen Con. Just know that they're out there. You say tomato, I also say tomato because I don't want to make any waves.
So this is the hotness, I think is the best way to put it. If
Yes.
you are looking for games, you probably haven't seen or played these games
Everything on
yet.
this list is new,
Yes.
even if not technically first release.
Yes, exactly. But about the list, so you can go into this list. Like the
And
nice
in fact,
thing
we are
about
going
it,
to.
It's got the 580 titles, but it's all interactive. So you can mark them as must-have. You can mark them as interested, things you don't like. You can curate your own list of these games. You can refer back to, cross-reference it with the Gen Con events list to see if there's any events for those games. And a lot of these will just be on the floor, so you can.
A lot of them are in exhibit hall booths, or
Yes.
Somebody may have purchased demo space to run them or something like that.
Yeah.
But like the cool thing about the list is it is constantly being updated. But as you go through and mark what you're interested, it remembers that. So what I do is when the list first goes up, I just go through the whole list, and I think at that time there were only 200 something games. So it didn't take that long.
Yeah.
But then if you just go back every couple days, they'll be like, great, here's the 30 new games that have been announced. Here's the 50 new games that we've confirmed details for. And then you just kind of mark through, and eventually now I have a list that I want to share with everybody, and that's what I want to do next week.
And that is what's exciting, particularly about this list, is because it gives you a chance to go and pick the games you're interested in ahead of time. And then if you want to go see them at Gen Con, you'll know where to find them because those are the ones you're interested in.
Yep, and it'll for most of them, it'll list booth number or location so that you know exactly where to go.
So it's more a navigation tool than anything.
And then shareable too. You know, we can talk about this. We're going to talk about our lists.
Yeah, each of us are making a list,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool.
I've started my list already. It is a non-zero number of cat games. Probably every cat game on there. It's cat games nepotism because it's games my friends have worked on and then cats. Is what
Yeah,
I have
so
so far.
I think our themes are going to be very
Feline
amusing.
nepotism, sorry,
Yeah,
that was the title.
so
Feline
you're
nepotism.
feline nepotism.
Yeah.
I'm basically trust and betrayal.
Ooh, yeah.
and I'm at stuff that looks like riffs.
Yep. We're going to be extremely
Yeah.
on brand for our list.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is I want to make these lists, and we'll share them next week during our last episode before Gen Con.
Right.
And what I'm hoping is that a lot of people who are watching can kind of make their own lists and share those so that we'll just have chat of everybody sharing what they thought was going to be cool.
Yeah,
And
so-
it is worth noting, like, our lists are just going to be things that we personally, right now,
Right.
want to go check out.
So you can find out what color of nerd we are just by looking at that list.
But there's, like, for example, for me, there are amazing games that are on that list that I have marked as not interested because I already got them.
Right.
Like they came from Kickstarter, for example, or maybe I picked them up at Origins or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But just because I didn't put it on, must have or interested doesn't mean that it's not great because maybe I already own it.
Yeah, and also just because your favorite heroes like a game, us being us,
Oh,
doesn't mean
right,
that
that's us. We're the heroes.
you
Yep.
will
Definitely
necessarily
not the
like
villains.
that. I think these are very personal choices
Yep.
for things. It's not necessarily like Gen Con contoned, like the people of Gen Con, these are the best games that they've...
Well, again, that's why I want us to share our lists.
Because we have vastly different tastes from each
Oh,
other.
yeah, exactly.
I want viewers to share their lists. I want people to just, what are you excited about at Gen Con?
I was like, there's no RPGs on this list. I don't care about it.
Yeah, that is the one thing. It's pretty much just board games.
Yep.
So there's kind of a separate list for RPGs on RPG.
It's not the same.
So if you're into board games,
Just telling you.
then you're covered here.
Yeah.
If you're into TCGs, minis, or RPGs, those are not really represented here. RPG Geek does have a really good thread. I'm not sure if it's an RPG employee or I think it's just a huge fan.
Yeah.
Who does maintain a really pretty exhaustive list of what's coming out. It doesn't have the same tool integration of marking things and then sharing your list and stuff like that. But it is a really good way to see like, oh, that's right, I heard about this RPG that was coming out. Is it actually going to get released? There's a pretty good kind of rundown on those details.
And honestly, God bless those really super dedicated fan curators
Yeah,
that keep
yeah.
those together. That's
For
amazing.
minis and TCGs, there's not really the same kind of resource, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's okay. There'll be a new
yet.
one next month.
There.
That's kind of how that goes. So you get a chance to at least look at and find out what you're going to be interested in. Now, if you're interested in something that is already out there and you want a new way to play it, Emma's got a story about that.
Gloomhaven, but digital. So we mentioned this, I think, a few episodes ago that Gloomhaven was coming to Steam. I think we might have linked to one of the previews for it, but it is available now. It's available in early access, importantly. So far, so good. I've talked to some people who've played this. It's scratching their itch. I've talked to people who are big Gloomhaven fans who are enjoying another way to play. Like, Gloomhaven
Scratching that
is,
itch, basically.
Yeah, it's notorious for being difficult to get a group together all the time. It's a lot to put on the table. So if you just want to get through, play your games in it, it's a good way to do that. It is early access, very importantly. So some of the few critiques that have come out so far is few bugs, which happens with early access. It's not multiplayer, which is something that they were very clear about before they launched. But some people are still
it's
caught
very
off guard.
early access. Because I think we
Yes.
talked about it briefly where the developers are saying that they wanted to just kind of almost walk through the development step by step, encounter by encounter, and just slowly build up the full game eventually.
Right.
But it's going to take a really long time.
Yeah. And the other thing is it doesn't have the traditional teachability or tutorial that you would expect from a lot of digital games.
In fact, there are literally no rules.
Well, there's the rules of the game that are implemented. I would guess if you had seen it played, if you'd watched a video, if you'd played through one time, you'd be able to figure it out. But if you literally never touched it before, you're probably gonna have to go to the BoardGameGeek page and look up some of the PDF rules or watch a video, how to play video to actually get into it.
YouTube tutorials, they are your best friend.
Yeah, so it seems like the Gloomhaven digital stuff is it's a great way to practice.
Yes.
It's a great way to get into that, but it's not going to be you don't buy this to be taught the game.
Right.
You buy this to play around with the game.
Yeah, and there is, we had talked about there is a version on Tabletop Simulator, and some people are comparing the two and saying, well, this version is like that, but first of all, I don't know if it's licensed necessarily on Tabletop Simulator. This one definitely gives the developers money, which is very important. And again, being early access, it's it will get there, and part of it getting there is you playing the game and giving them feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing to remember now, if anybody is going to be grumpy comparing this to Tabletop Simulator, in that Tabletop Simulator just replicates, it just replaces the physical components of the game.
Yeah.
That's all that it does, I believe. So, it's great if you want to play that. But if you're looking for a tutorial or playing online with friends, a lot of the other things that come with an actual digital adaptation, as opposed to kind of a simulation almost on a tabletop, maybe. Then Gloomhaven will get there eventually. So I think it's one of those. If you kind of look at the graph, Tabletop Simulator is going to be that line, and then the Gloomhaven digital doesn't have all the features now, but it will eventually.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't have what you want yet, it's early access. wait.
Well, it's so interesting because I play a ton of digital games, and if you come from a digital game background, you're very used to this at this point. You know what early access is, but if you were coming from the board game sphere, they might not have that same patience. They're like, I get my game, and it's the game, except sometimes it's not.
Okay, so if you're coming from the board game sphere, just pretend that this is the print and play version.
Yes.
And then you'll be like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or first edition.
one way to look at
The
it.
print and play test.
Yes.
Always looking for new ways to play tabletop games.
I know, right?
If only there was a product that combined those worlds. Like
If only it was a table.
Oh.
Wait,
Or at least something like a table.
madness.
Hey guys, I'm just reading about this new product right now. And CMON and Explore introduced a game called Teburu, which is the
Teburu.
Teburu.
Yeah, well
Which is just the Japanese way to pronounce
I
table.
don't even speak fake Japanese, as it turns out. This is not the Japanese word for table. It's a transliteration. Very,
Yeah.
very popular. And it's a gaming console that integrates tabletop gaming and the digital world. Which, from what I understand, is where you can get sucked into and then train monsters to beat other monsters.
Yeah, it's like digital monsters.
Something like that,
Something,
yeah.
yeah.
And that might not be what it is. So I checked out the video for this particular product, and it is very, very interesting. It's like a flat tabletop tablet that you put little cards over. There's sensors underneath them. You put pieces on the little cards, and you move them around like you would in any game.
Yeah, you put a sensor on the bottom of your minis. Like I think the example they show is Zombicide.
Zombicide Evolution, which is going to be their
Launch.
launch.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
So,
word.
so under each of the minis, they have like a little magnet, a little sensor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you're basically just playing on this large sensor mat. So you're kind of just getting RFID or whatever it is through the game component. So you're still playing on the board, but the game state is being read by the app, and then presumably the app will do cool things with that game state for you.
Supposedly. And also, it's got a fully integrated electronic dice. Now, are these dice you see on a screen? No, they are not. When they say electronic dice, they mean dice.
With batteries in them.
With batteries in them.
And RFIDs.
that you roll.
Yeah.
Like, because reading the numbers on the top might be a little tough. The board will read them for you. Don't need your bifocals for this game, kids.
Well, the dice talk to the game. The dice talk to the game talks to the tablet talks
Does
to
the
your...
game talk to the dice so
These
the
are
guy
the
can
dice that
flip
speak
to the
to me.
size you want?
Maybe, I don't know. This is the future. We're living in the future.
Yeah, and it's always exciting to see things that are, kind of at that cutting edge of making technology and board games fit together. I'm excited about the concept of it. The problem I have is that this is not the first product that has done essentially this same function.
Or hope to at least accomplish this. I think
Yeah.
this might be the first one that I've seen that's trying to make a
more generic
broad
system.
platform.
Something that they
people
can bring licensed games into, sure.
I mean, other than I think there were a couple companies that were producing products that were like touch screens.
Right.
Because I know there's been a number of things for like D&D and minis in particular that have done that.
And nobody told those designers that those are actually just video games.
There's like the Microsoft Touch or something.
Well, yeah,
cable.
like it was the touchscreen, but then you would put your mini on the touchscreen.
Yeah.
And it would read the position of the mini and react appropriately.
Yeah, what happened to that?
Well,
It was like $10,000 or something, right?
Yep.
Like a lot of these things.
Oh, they're expensive because they're
They're-
new. All right, there you go.
so like in this case, it's really intriguing, but it's gonna really depend on what games get supported. And then the question I have is, what are they gonna change about playing the game? Because we talked about this briefly before the show. Like Zombicide, the thing we joke about of the Kickstarter board game, where you have a bunch of minis, you move around a board, you're getting a lot of tokens, you're doing all this
Bunch
kind
of tokens,
stuff.
bunch of counters, bunch of
Zombicide
Resources.
Zombicide has that stuff about noise, where you send noise out different regions. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of bookkeeping. Gloomhaven,
Maintenance.
Kingdom Death. Like I could
Yeah.
see lots of these things playing off of that.
right
For
because those games the game would actually be easier to play.
Yep.
Because it's taking care of all of that calculation for you, letting you know how much of what you've got. I don't know if it's going to work for every game.
Yeah. There's
How
a
is
lot of-
how is Monopoly more fun on this board? Well, it's
you
not.
don't play it. Would be one. That would be one of the
Yes.
That would be more fun.
But even like more recent examples, like we were talking about, let's take another Kickstarter board game, Rising Sun. Again, it's got a lot of components. It's got big minis, but I can't think off the top of my head how this would improve that. So, I imagine that the Teburu folks certainly have some ideas on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, if they didn't, they wouldn't be putting out a new product, would they?
Yeah. Well, so this will be at Gen Con in some capacity.
Yes.
So we will try to take a look at it.
We will take a look
anybody
at it.
else
Oh
is
yeah,
at,
I'm taking a look at
if
it.
anybody else is at Gen Con, you should try to take a look at it too.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious to see what it's going to do.
And if it does well, I mean, it's gonna kickstart early next year, from
Yep.
what I understand. So
The other thing is, like, we're speculating here because it is being put out by CMON. We're guessing that other games are going to be configurable to it, which seems to make sense. Not totally confirmed about it, but one of the things, like you had said, for more maintenance of more complex games. But what I'm excited, like me and a lot of people who are just like raring to go for the intersection of tabletop and digital, is the accessibility, and for making like an order of magnitude more people able to play games. So there are games where you say like, oh, Rising Sun, not that complicated. Like there are hundreds of people I know who would look at that and be like, what is even happening?
too much for me.
I don't.
yeah, but like the thing is that when it's the during play of Rising Sun, because we talked about this,
Yeah.
of having a tutorial or helping you deal with choices, whatever, or helping you deal with numbers.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Teburu is not going to change how you play the game in the sense of how you make decisions. It's not going to change the interesting core part of the game.
Yeah.
Theoretically, this will take care of what is kind of bookkeeping. Are the tokens there? Do I have the status effect? Like, can I target this enemy or whatever? Like, that stuff should be taken care of.
I always liked talking Battleship better than regular Battleship anyway.
Well, I think part of the UI UX, like when I play with non-gamers, these are the things that trip them up. So in Rising Sun, with like the clan you're playing that turns the Ronins into coins or whatever, like it says that on your card, but a lot of people can't read. not that they can't read, but they like I've played games that they read the card and they do something completely different. So there's like a disconnect.
It doesn't stick with them.
Yeah. So if you have like an illustration or something, or if you have like not even a whole tutorial, but like what is this? Like what happens again? And then it shows
The
a
knight
little,
moves this way.
Yeah, a little illustration, a little animation of like your things, and they turn it. It's like, oh right, I turn these things in, and I do this behind my screen.
Yeah, like reminders may not be a bad thing, but what I think you were talking about, having it like be a tutorial, having it teach people things.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Teburu automatically is not going to have a tutorial. Like it's not going to automatically provide that. I have a feeling that in a lot of cases it will be faster, cheaper, and more effective to really invest in making a really good YouTube tutorial, and then you still go play on Teburu.
Well, with that tablet, I don't know if that's your tablet or their tablet. Maybe that plays the videos on it.
It's got to be your tablet. I mean,
Yeah, well,
otherwise
that's
this
what-
will. I don't think anybody wants to buy Teburu for $600
Yeah.
to get a decent tablet to go with it. I think
Right.
they're going to assume you have your own.
Yeah,
You have your
that
own
makes sense.
$600 tablet already? I see.
This device.
Board games are for everyone, I promise. So that's it.
Teburu.
That's it
Check
for
it out
Teburu.
at Gen Con.
We are moving on to something far more exciting.
Speaking
in my
of things
opinion.
you can check out
There.
at Gen Con.
Yes, things that we can check out at Gen Con. This is the one I'm excited about right now because it's something we've talked about briefly in the past, and I was like, how's that going to work? Well, now they're going to show me. Emma, what do we
Oh
got?
my gosh, we can finally talk about it. So I've been testing this game. So Force
So you've been
Museum-
lying to us for months.
Months.
No, it's not. It's by omission.
We can never trust you again, Emma.
I'm so proud of you.
The distrust. So we talked about how a few months ago, Force Museum was bought by Funko, both local Washington companies. So Funko buying this game company and creating the imprint, I believe, of Funko Games, and they made this announcement like, we're going into games.
Yep.
A very bold statement, and I think people had mixed reactions to that. And like, oh, when are you gonna make the games? Are they gonna be with Funkos? Like, there's a lot of questions. But now a lot of those questions are answered because we have seen this game. They actually have them at San Diego Comic-Con. They have versions of the game. I think some of the streamers and media players
People can sit down and play.
being able to play this. And so this is the first game, Funkoverse. Into the Funkoverse? It's just Funkoverse.
I think
believe.
it's technically Funkoverse strategy game.
Yeah, Funkoverse strategy game. It's a minis combat game. It's actually several minis combat games. So there's a Batman version, there's a Golden Girls version, there's a Harry Potter version, and they have the characters. They're not full-size Funkos, so it's not like you're going to take your Funko collection and play them on the table, which is probably fine because most people still have them in the boxes and aren't going to take them out. So it
Mint
has
in box.
Mint in box. It is. It's going to be this with the game too, right? Like the whole thing is just going to be on your shelf.
Play with your toys.
Play with your toys, right?
Play with your toys.
So the game, it comes in the set with the characters that you're going to need. There's 2 character boxes. There's 4 character boxes. Everything you need in there to play this game. You have your grid map where you're moving your characters around. There's an action economy where they all have different abilities.
There's kind of a clever cooldown mechanic and stuff like that. There's a lot of neat, because I had a chance to play it. There's a lot of neat. You obviously played a whole lot more than me.
Yes.
But there's a lot of neat little elements. It seems to capture some of the feel of playing a miniatures game, but it's not particularly complex.
Yeah.
But I also wasn't bored when I was playing. I felt like I had plenty to do. There was plenty to engage with.
Were you the Golden Girls?
No, I played Batman and Robin or Batgirl. One of those two. But the Joker acted like the Joker.
Yeah.
Everything felt right. It was very much one of those board game, miniature game, hybrid kind of things.
It's a dice system, right? You roll the dice, you get hits, you get misses, you knock people down, you knock people out, you have objectives on the board.
You can fight with the Golden Girls.
Yep.
You get points. So this is really exciting. And Funko is all in on this, and it's going to be available to check out at Gen Con.
Yep, there's a bunch of events that went live yesterday.
Yeah, because it was announced
morning.
yesterday. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're all in on this. They're still making the other things, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, not really. They've got that huge action figure economy to fall back on if this doesn't work out for them, right?
Fair, yeah. But they are definitely putting a lot of effort into this, and a lot of effort into making it a good game, an accessible game, so something that you can play with your family, play with your kids, but still have and Force Britannia is just known for making very tight.
And now we can finally figure it out who the Golden Girls could beat up.
Almost anyone.
Yeah,
if they work together, they can take out any force.
That'll who would win in a fight?
Bring the thunder from St. Olaf.
Boom! The answer is just the Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Batman stands no chance.
So the events at Gen Con, they're all free. You can go play the game and try it out. And then they have a very limited quantity for purchase at Gen Con.
And the only way you can purchase those is from doing the events. So you actually have to go there,
You have to go play
check
test
out
the
the
game.
game. Yeah, I think the intention is, because the figures are cool, right? It's technically new Funkos, so they want the word of the game to get out there. They're excited. I'm sure copies will sell because of the figures, and people just have collecting them. But they want people to play the game.
Christian, are you ready for the next level? Somebody in chat suggested a Riffs version of Golden Girls.
Whoever you are out there, thank you for being a friend.
And a quick sidebar about this, actually, there's a lot of game announcements at San Diego Comic-Con. This is I think it's really interesting, the zeitgeist of more, because Comic-Con has traditionally been comics, pop culture type
very
things.
popular.
The last few years, mostly just movies.
Yeah, movies. But to see game announcements there, it's games
Which
as
other
pop
game
culture.
announcements? Because there's Magic, we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that a lot of the game announcements that come out are going to be licensed pop culture kind of stuff, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And we've also talked about how the quality of those kinds of licensed games has been increasing a lot. So
for Teburu too was announced at San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. So it's definitely the crossover between more of the pop culture thing and Magic, which spoiler we're going to get to, but that's an interesting one to see. I'm just excited to see it because Comic-Con is
when
such
are
a
you
big.
not excited?
I don't know. It's fun.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, you don't need to apologize for
But
your
I just feel
excitement.
you're
We appreciate your enthusiasm.
We know you.
But I'm even more excited than usual to see people, just to see the spread of the hobbies, less niche.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
getting more into the mainstream.
Well, how about the reverse of that?
The reverse of getting into the mainstream?
Oh yeah.
Just going full indie?
Yeah.
Is there a way to do that?
Well, a secret cabal of people.
Of people who just decide that,
who
you know what?
decide what's cool.
We decided that this is awesome, and so we're giving it awards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing that's happening. Derek, why don't you tell us a little bit about this event coming up?
So the Diana Jones Awards are given out at Gen Con, and they're called Diana Jones because it's a a resin like pyramid in which there is a burned copy, a cover of the Indiana Jones RPG. But the eye is burned off, so it's
is
the
that what
Diana
it is?
Jones.
I thought Diana Jones was a person.
Nope.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I wanted to ruin that dream for you.
Thank you. That's a.
That's a good story, though.
We're like, yay, women in gaming. Oh wait, not a real person.
Well,
But yeah, the trophy is very amusing.
she's a
in that
real
sense.
person in my heart. Okay, that's
Mine
what
too.
matters. Yeah.
The Diana Jones.
Do you have her as kind of a? See, I have her kind of looking like a Linda Carter from the old Wonder Woman show. You know, when she was just doing the Diana Prince thing. You know, glasses.
Well, we were just
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about Golden Girls, so
Yeah, that might be why.
they're just a.
Now
a
she looks
mishmash
like
of
B.
all
Arthur
Golden
in my
Girls.
head. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the Diana Jones Awards is kind of different from what we covered the Origins Awards. We talked about the Ennies in particular, and the Ennies are very much an award of we have a bunch of different categories, a bunch of different nominees. There's kind of almost something for everything. We're trying to highlight the kind of nooks and crannies of everything.
It's a standard industry awards show
Yes.
in that
Yep.
way.
But the Diana Jones Awards is different in that it's a very, very short thing. There's no categories. It's just a short list, and there's not really any rules for what can be on that list.
Right, and that has been proven in years past with some of the former winners.
Yep, so they've nominated games, they've nominated people, events, even concepts. I think last year or the year before, actual play / live streaming was what won the award. So some streamers kind of accepted it on the behalf of everyone, basically.
Of all streamers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I know a few streamers who would do that willingly and
Yeah.
think that they were at the forefront.
I'll accept your award.
so they just wanted to, there's basically kind of a core group of people who want to highlight just interesting, noteworthy, important things in the industry and the community, regardless of what category they fall in.
Yeah.
So this year, they picked 4 things. It's usually like 3 to 5-ish, so it's a pretty
Oh,
short
so
list.
4 is right in that median number there.
Absolutely. And I love this award because it's, again, there's no rules. It's just a very short list of things you should check out one way or the other. So this year's nominees are Dungeons and Dragons and Art and Arcana, or Dungeons and Art and Arcana. Anyway.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons.
Art and Arcana.
Art and Arcana. Yeah.
And this is, if people have seen it, it was a huge like coffee table book. That's just the history of D&D, mainly the art of D&D and how it was presented, how it's looked over the years. It's a gorgeously produced book, really, really nice. And if you at all kind of love the progression of fantasy art, then it's going to be right up your alley.
Nice.
So then we have Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr.
Kerr?
Kerr?
It's generally pronounced Kerr on this coast.
So this is a cooperative game where you were explaining, because you played it.
Yes.
Do you want to just explain it actually?
So you play as well, first of all, the most pertinent aspect of this game is that you're providing care for someone who's dying, and they will
They're
die.
in a coma, right?
Yeah. Well, they're they had a heart attack.
Okay.
So they're kind of in and out of consciousness, like
Sure.
over the course of days. And this isn't like any other game because you're not saving someone. They're not going to live. Like this person is going to die. And so it's not a goal like you might think of a similar themed games like, oh, we got to work really hard and save them, save their life. Well, that's not what it is. Yeah. Spoiler alert. The goal of the game instead is this person has several regrets, and the goal is to play through a number of scenarios. It's a campaign game, not a legacy, but you have different scenarios where you add cards, remove cards, and over the course of that, as the nursing staff kind of unwind Billy's history and help him come to terms with these regrets.
So it
So
sounds
it's
like
about a bunch of people who are just not good at their job. Like they are going to fail no matter what, despite the fact that they're trained medical professionals.
well, maybe the point of the game
People
is
die, Christian,
maybe
okay?
the point
I don't
of the game
believe
is to understand that eventually everyone will die,
Yeah.
and not everything can be overcome, and sometimes you have to accept it.
But their job is to save that man, and they all fail no matter what.
Their job is to help him along his path.
Yes, yeah. Depending on how far along someone is, sometimes there is no saving that person.
But like
That's what
this
hospice care is for.
This is probably on this list for those reasons, and that there aren't a whole lot of games that are about kind of coming to terms with things at the end of your life.
Yeah.
So the next game on the list we've talked about before is The Mind.
Mind.
And in case anybody doesn't remember, The Mind is a very strange
gonna be
game.
It's
psychic.
literally the most pretentious counting game ever.
Sure. So you.
It's an amazing game.
It's 100 cards.
I will fight for this
100
game.
numbered cards. They're dealt out to the players each round. Each player has a number of cards in their hand equal to the round number, basically. But the key is you have to play those cards in order without communicating. And in the hard mode, without seeing what other people have played. So it is all about the game of like communicating and bluffing without communicating.
Or bluffing.
See, it's like that.
It's a counting game.
You've just played the game.
You count from 1 to 100.
But it's way
without
harder,
talking.
Way
to
harder
But
than
there's
you
numbers
think.
that are missing, and you can't talk.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's on this list just for the. It's so different.
No,
from
no,
other
and
games.
it's I make it sound overly simple, but it's a very, very good game, and there's a reason it's on this list.
You have a lot of dramatic moments where, especially like, because you do feel psychic, especially there's like a 15 played down, and then there's like the next number's like a 50, and everyone's like sweating because it's such a big gap, and somebody plays the 50, and then someone plays the 51, and everyone's like, what?
Yeah, it's a game about building tension, except without the threat. Instead of the threat of death, it's just standard chronology.
Yeah, like the way that I've described it to people, like when I first played it, was this is Stress, the card game. Would you like to play?
Yeah.
And some people were like,
people-
yeah, and some
yeah.
people were like, absolutely not.
It's like, I have a heart condition. I can't play this game. Oh, it's
Yeah.
just counting? I'll give it a try. Halfway through, the ambulance comes and picks him up and
Yeah.
takes him away.
Yeah.
But it is remarkable. So it's absolutely
No,
clear why it's on
it
this
belongs on this list just because it is such a remarkable game.
list. So the final game on the list is a role-playing game called Star-Crossed. And this is a game where the two players play forbidden lovers
Star-crossed
or
lovers.
desires.
Yeah.
You know, you are two people in love
That don't belong
who
together.
cannot be together for whatever reason, and you can choose a variety of different reasons. It could be society, oppressing your sexuality. It could be distance. It could be a lot of things.
Warring families,
Yep.
Yeah.
very, very
Could
popular.
be Romeo and Juliet. But you have a tower, a Jenga tower, and you have to pull.
Thinking Hatfield and McCoy.
You have to pull stuff from the Jenga tower and kind of build it up. And when it crashes, your emotions have overcome you, and something happens.
And then nuclear war.
Sure. Is that how romances usually end with you?
Well, because your thing that was holding you apart is you both had to like watch the button and make sure nobody pressed the button to launch the bomb.
You had a whole headcanon that you were developing while we were
and then
having
you
another
give into your passions and do it, but
Yeah.
you fall on the button when
You
you're
fall on the
rolling over and
button.
do a different position, and then it's over.
Okay, so Star-Crossed
Got too real, didn't it?
Star-Crossed
Yeah.
got a lot of attention, and it's gotten a lot of really good reviews. And I think people who kind of want to explore a game that is a little more about really strong emotions and just a couple characters should check this out.
This is a game about the feels.
So,
Yeah.
but the Diana Jones Awards, again, it's a short list. There are enough things on that list that, like, I really just want to say, go look at all of these. They're not all going to be up your alley. They're not going to be things you like. Some people are not going to like the mine, for example. But they're all worth looking at.
Yeah, but key people in the industry have decided that these games are important because they are. They may pave the way for bigger, better games in the future.
Absolutely.
Or maybe they are so singular that there's just nothing else like them. Either way, check out every game on the list if you can.
New stuff.
That's fair, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
New stuff.
New stuff.
There isn't any new stuff coming out.
More new stuff.
If there was only something that could just get me super excited about playing a really old game,
Fairies.
tell me more.
Yes. Fairies.
wait,
The Fae folk.
Have there ever been fairies in Rifts? I don't think there's been a fairy expansion for
Yes,
Rifts.
a specific expansion. I mean, look at all of Britannia, that whole area.
Yeah, but they didn't really-
They kind of took over that whole continent, or that whole.
I don't remember being a bunch of fairy content in there. Like, we got vampire kingdoms. Why don't we have fairy kingdoms?
No,
That's a good
you
question.
just need to move over to Europe. There's plenty of fairy stuff in
I
Europe.
remember Triax in the NGR. Anyway, I have
Maybe you should
derailed this
talk
entirely.
to-
Germany does not count.
Maybe you should talk to Mark Rosewater about helping you out there because Magic is coming out with a new set. Of course it is. Comes out
It's
with
Rifts
a.
themed? It's Rifts themed. just
That's
for
amazing.
you.
Magic the Gathering
That's-
Rifts confirmed.
Oh my gosh, not confirmed. It's lies. It's all lies. What has been confirmed is the name of the new set, which is Thrones of Eldraine. This is interesting because Eldraine is not a plane we've been to before. So the last time that fairies were really a big thing was in Lorwyn, but we're not going back to Lorwyn, probably. Honestly, so this is another, again, big game announcement at San Diego Comic-Con. Mark Rosewater is going to do his talk tomorrow, so that's when a lot more information is going to come out. But we do have the name. We do know that it's going to be a lot of fairies, a lot of other stuff, as Magic always is. If you don't know about this tribal, it's a creature type that's usually really low mana cost, so very easy, cheap to get out into the battlefield. Almost always have flying. I would look through the whole history of fairy cards to see if this, to confirm if it's true. In the beginning, Magic was weird, so don't worry too much about that. But creatures with flying.
In the beginning.
In the beginning, they're tricksy, so they have flash. You know, they can come in on your opponent's turn, do mess with whatever your opponent is doing. So very thematically.
Darn you, fairies.
Fairies. That's really all we know about the set so far.
You get to shoot your opponent with a tiny bow and arrow and make them fall asleep, too.
Yeah, poke them in the nose, and their nose just itchy for the rest of the day.
That'd be an interesting new mechanic for Magic the Gathering, just to see players do that in tournaments.
Boop.
Yeah,
The boop.
The boop, yes.
Place card down, tap it, reach across table, and touch your opponent's nose while saying boop.
Boop target player.
Boop target player. Oh, wow. Yeah, so the Royal Courts of Eldraine request the honor of your presence. That's pretty much all we know, but you will be able to get more. I'm sure it will probably be live streamed or reported on tomorrow.
Well, because the announcement was pretty cool. Like it seems like people basically got an invite, like from the Courts of Eldraine, that basically just said, you know, we request the honor of your presence.
Come to the San Diego Comic-Con and wait in line for 6.5 hours.
So they're doing cool stuff, you know, and going more mainstream. I mean, MTG Arena has absolutely brought in a lot more players, and it's now Magic has always been big, you know, but it's like San Diego Comic-Con big, you know, like for that audience to be there and excited and learn more about that. So
speaking of Magic Online.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so MTG Arena has been, the players have been getting banned left and right for doing one of the most fun things to do in the entire game.
Exploit a bug?
Well, exploiting a bug is not the most fun thing to do. But, like, you can play with your pet in this game.
In case people don't know, you can get a pet now.
Yeah, you've got a pet.
This is new. You can get a pet.
It's not enough that you're just a wizard. Yeah, you've got a little pet. And if you click on your little pet, he'll change colors and you know, that's great.
And purr.
And
Yeah,
it's a little kitty, so of course you're gonna want to pet the kitty.
Yeah.
So it turns out that if you pet the kitty too much, you basically.
If you click your mouse really fast on the kitty.
If you just pet the kitty over and over again, really, really fast.
Yeah.
For a long time.
For a long time. What happens is you get banned, and here's why.
The game explodes.
Yeah, the game basically explodes. It crashes, and you get an automatic win. So there's been players out there who've just been, if they're losing their game, and just clicking this kitty over and over again.
And to be clear,
just
like
very rapidly.
This is like 150 times a minute.
Yeah, you gotta work at it if you want to get to juice.
I mean, just the APMs on that. These people should be playing StarCraft or something with that sort of.
Absolutely. So what happens is it crashes the game, you automatically win, and then they ban you. Because it's happened so much. And people are getting upset about this. The people who are getting banned, as it turns out, are not happy about being banned. They're just like, I'm just playing the game.
Yeah,
I don't know what the problem is.
You sold me a product, and it does this. I did the thing the product does, and why are you mad at me?
It's because you're cheating.
Yeah.
That's why. Stop cheating.
That would be a reason.
Pet your kitty all you want. But you don't need to do it 150 times a minute.
Yeah.
If you do, you may go blind. Or go banned. 5 days right now. 5 days is the current ban for that. So for those of you playing Magic the Gathering Arena, don't try this at home unless you want to be banned for 5 days.
Yeah, I think the moral is just like be careful when you pet your cat.
And you know they're going to fix it in probably the next patch. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's going to stick around forever. You know.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
What would I say?
No.
What'd I say? So that's it. That's my fun news for the week about MTG Arena. Don't pet the cats.
Yeah. Well, pet them.
Pet them.
Just don't pet the cats.
Just don't over. You know, moderation in all things, including moderation.
Gentle. Yeah.
This isn't getting any better. It gets worse and worse the more we talk about it.
Moving on.
Bundles. Oh, here we are in bundles. This is
a gift to you this week.
It is. It's like the bundle gods heard me and said, you know what I would really love this.
Did you do this in all
Did I
caps,
do- I did-
or
did-
did it come that way?
No,
That's what I want to know.
No, it's all caps because that's how it was on their website.
Yeah, it's actually probably
Subtle.
yeah. Hey, sometimes you can sell things just by using bigger font. That's a thing.
Yeah, it's true.
The bundle of holding this week is offering something called Savage Heroes. Why am I excited about it? Well, it's well known on this show that I'm a big Savage Worlds fan. I know.
Really?
Some of you are surprised, and you've never watched the show before because I tend to freak out about this stuff a lot. So there are 4 tabletop role-playing game ebooks lines for the Savage Worlds
These
series.
are like 4 completely different
4
settings.
completely different settings.
Different settings, different genres.
Absolutely. All you need to play them is the Savage Worlds deluxe book.
It's got the Explorer Edition in
And
the
it's
basic
got,
set.
and it comes with it, so you don't even have to worry about getting that. So included in the main core book collection bundle is a Fear Agent, which is it's basically
like near future sci-fi.
near future sci-fi where there's a lot of political stuff happening.
There's spies,
Corporate espionage.
conspiracies.
It's right there. You've played this game, or at least played a video game that looks like this game at some point. It's a very popular genre.
Yeah.
The Goon RPG, based on the very, very popular indie comic The Goon, where you can play as characters in that particular world, joining up with the underworld forces to.
Yeah, and that's kind of like shady criminal enterprises.
Very pulpy,
on the docks and stuff
but
like
still
that.
kind of comedic. Not bad at all. The world of Solomon Kane, which, if you're familiar with Conan at all, the same creator, Robert E. Howard, created this character who was kind of this reformed villain who was traveling the world, finding other people to help push back the darkness.
But the idea of like a huge, burly, like heroic combat Puritan was always such a weird idea.
yeah, he was always like he was a weird action hero pilgrim.
Yeah.
Like an actual pilgrim.
Buckle hat and all that.
Yep. It was always like
A wanderer,
weird choice.
a pilgrim.
It always was a weird choice, but it paved the way for a lot of interesting characters that ended up crossing over into other genres, like Conan itself. So,
but there's also the sixth gun.
the Sixth Gun, and this is cool because the Sixth Gun is also based on a comic book, and Savage Worlds already has a Weird West setting in Deadlands, which was their original setting.
It's where Savage Worlds came from.
Right, it came from the Deadlands series. So if you like
Right.
Weird West stuff but don't necessarily want to go the standard, huckster, magic-y stuff that happens in Deadlands, the Sixth Gun might be for you. It's about it's a Weird West setting in which 6 guns were created by pure hatred. Each of them has a special ability, and the 6th gun is, of course, the most powerful of them, and kind of like the One Ring. People fight over the guns. It's it's like Highlander.
One revolver and in the darkness
There can
shoot
only be
them.
one.
Yeah, and they all have like some of them make it so bullets don't hurt you, or each gun has a special
Yeah,
ability.
the comic always
so
looked
they're
really
bad.
good.
and the comic is actually really
The
cool.
art's
So
amazing.
yeah, and then that art transfers over very well
Yeah.
into the game setting. So
So that's like $20.
that's for
to basically
that's
get
for the basic $20.
Yep.
You get the core book and 4 different core book settings that are all compatible with Savage
Nice.
Worlds.
And
So
that-
for
so-
example, if you were going to start a Rifts game and wanted to pull from other worlds, you would have 4 new worlds to pull from into your new Rifts game.
And I think 3. So there were 4 new words there. 3 of them are licenses from like a comic or some other existing thing. And then I think Fear Agent is the new, like the original one.
Right.
So Rifts uses the Savage Worlds system now? or
Savage
is-
Rifts use the
Savage
Savage Worlds
Worlds.
system,
Okay.
yeah.
Rifts uses another system
Okay.
that at some point we will subject you to.
But in my opinion,
I'm excited.
they got that Rifts license was literally the hardest thing to get. Nobody could get it. Kevin did not want to give that up to anybody for any reason ever. He's held on to it jealously for years and years and years, and ended up giving it to Savage Worlds. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've done such a great job with porting these settings over to their game and making them playable. Solomon Kane is actually very, very true to the Solomon Kane setting.
Well, I do-
their Flash Gordon setting is spot
I
on
do
Flash
think that,
Gordon.
that Savage Worlds in a lot of ways is kind of taken the place that GURPS used to take, where it has become the default generic, relatively generic kind of adventure system.
Yeah, because it's not as complicated as GURPS, and still and way more playable.
Yeah, well, it is like even I was looking at the similarities between this and Kids on Bikes, you know, and I was just like, oh, this is like very similar in the way that it's set up. So it is very approachable as a system.
Yeah, it's like my first crunchy system.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that Savage Worlds has positioned itself as like kind of the generic default, but then it also has a number of these licensed sources that have come out, and that was kind of what GURPS did for a long time. Is, you know, back before Wikipedia, literally it was you went and bought the GURPS book on the thing because it gave you the research you needed to go play the thing, whether or not you were playing GURPS.
That is so true. It's very, very true. But Savage Worlds has definitely filled in that, and I don't think they did it on purpose. Like it just started happening, and then, well, I mean, this is the best way to go, you know. I think in the future we're gonna probably go towards more the Dungeon World type stuff.
Well, it's weird, like, because personally, I
Apocalypse
feel like
Engine is going to be the same thing on the storyteller end of things.
Kind of, yes. Like, I think that Apocalypse World has become the default, I'm going to make an indie game thing. But I think the difference is that the Apocalypse Engine, the Powered by Apocalypse, only really works when you don't make it generic. Like, to make that work, you have to customize it to your game.
Right.
There's it doesn't really work
like I don't know, Monster of the Week, for example, is a pretty generic Monster of the Week system.
Yes, for a Monster of the Week system, but like because it picked its genre and it was like it's going to be Buffy and X-Files and it's going to do that.
Yeah,
like that's where Powered by the Apocalypse works, when you pick your thing and do that thing. But like, if you compare Monster of the Week to Monster Hearts, they're very different because they're trying to play different things. It's not like if we were to compare the Six Gun with Fear Agent. You know, like the system's gonna be very, very similar, and that's where I think kind of Savage Worlds is fitting in.
That's why Rifts works so well with that system, is because it's so interchangeable rules wise.
So we have like the base level for like $20 that gives you kind of what you need for the stuff, but there's a whole lot of stuff in the expanded level.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, you
everything else.
No, basically everything else that comes with these games. If you get the expanded level, which is what, maybe $10 more?
Yeah, it's 30. It's like 30-ish bucks, like 31 now.
30 instead of 20. Okay, so for 30 instead of 20, for Fear Agent, you get everything else. You get all the adventures they've ever put out for it, any new archetypes they've got, creature cards, which are just the handiest little tools ever, and of course the GM screen inserts to add to your own Savage Worlds GM screen. For the Goon, you'll get their biggest, like they only had like one kind of supplement that came out for that, for adventures. You get that. You get the creature cards for that. You get the GM screen inserts for that. For the Sixth Gun, you get the companion book that came with that to tell you how to play the game. You get a GM screen, and you get figure flats with the little pop-up standees. For Solomon Kane, you get a bunch of stuff came out for Solomon Kane. Guess what? You get all of it. Yeah, it comes with all of the supplementary books that it came with.
So and, a lot of these cases, it's like 400 pages worth of content.
Easily, and that's for each product.
Per game line.
Yeah.
So per game line, you're getting the basic book, which goes off of the other basic book, and then plus all of the supplementary stuff to have anything you need to play in that world or with things from that world. There are elements of all these books that are great that can fit into any one of your Savage Worlds campaigns. This is the best bundle I've talked about in months. So happy I got to do it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, and we were talking a little bit before the start of the show, because I've been getting more into RPGs. I recently just bought the physical Paranoia starter set. I think I actually missed out on the bundle for that, because I was like, of the ones we've talked about, they all seem really cool, but that one with the dark humor, Portal-esque, seemed really fun. But and then I was like for the digital bundles, for me, it's a lot of digital content. I kind of like the physical and be able to flip through things. I'm not sure if these would really be a good fit for me. But then you all had a good point about potentially getting the physical book, having a resource there, and then having just so much additional stuff. And you don't have to read it all digitally, I think, which is a little bit of the hang up for me. But having a reference where you could print off an adventure, print off a piece over time.
Yeah, so for me, just because of space and the number of games that I'm interested in, I've kind of reached a point where I only want, like we talked about this before, I only want it physically, like if I'm using it at the table on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Or if I just love flipping through it. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely some
Or
games.
if it's got a fancy cover with a collector hardback kind of thing going on,
and then
you're all
I
about
still,
that too.
yeah, but I still want to use it at the table. That's nice to flip through. But in most cases, I want to get like the core book,
Yeah.
which I'm going to be using every session, and like maybe one or two other books that are going to be handed out to players at the book at the table. But then everything else, I kind of want digital, so I have it there when I need it.
Yeah.
But I don't have to move it. It's not on my shelf. But this is also a way to get into something.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, hey, maybe I should get into Paranoia, or maybe I should get into Savage Worlds. You buy this bundle to get a ton of Savage Worlds content, and then go buy the core Savage World book in print. And then you're ready to go.
Which costs the same as the entire bundle, by the way.
Right.
So that's what I recommend.
Yeah.
Are we ready for Kickstarters?
Oh yeah, the Queen
Kickstarter
has arrived.
Queen, Kickstarter Queen.
All right, so the first Kickstarter that we can go through is Pret-a-Porter, I believe.
Is it like pret a
Pre-
manger? Is this French?
It's probably French. Pret-a-Porter.
Probably pronounced
Pret-a-Porter.
Pret-a-porter.
So, it is probably French because this is a game about fashion. So you are building a fashion empire, and apparently it's all about kind of balancing the economy of short-term gains of like taking contracts and making money, but that or do you build buildings to expand your abilities later on? So
I create trends.
sure.
Trendsetter.
So this game was originally released in 2011, and you mentioned that only 1,000 copies were printed at that point.
Yeah, because I'm like, this isn't a new game, and like it's like heard about like whispers about it, but the reason that it's not better known is because of the limited run for the original print run.
The old ones speak of Pret-a-Porter.
In the dark hallway.
And the stars are right, and this finally returned, and now we can dress up Cthulhu.
Usually when something only made 1,000 copies and then disappears, it's because it wasn't any good. But not this game.
So this is like a worker placement game. I believe there's some drafting elements too, but you're kind of building up your empire, and it looks really, really nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stretch goals to have a variety of different artists do art for the fashion styles. So I think you're going to end up having a really neat kind of element where there's several very distinct styles to kind of reflect how the world's fashion actually works.
Yeah.
And it's very, very colorful, very pretty, and again, it's nice to see board games with kind of different themes.
And it's playable on Tabletop Simulator, which is worth noting.
So this has 3 days left. 4 days left is
My fafavorite name of any game this week.
no, you go.
Oh, no, I can't say things.
Wow.
Remember, we
Wow.
already talked about how my accents
right.
are terrible.
You want to give it a shot?
Soviet Kitchen Unleashed.
Oh my gosh, see, Derek's
Yep.
Christian. Derek.
I mean,
Christian's good at this.
Literally my job, guys.
Yeah, I was about to say he is the
That's
actor, so we're not going to compete with this. So this has 4 days left. This is Christian again. Is the title?
Soviet Kitchen Unleashed.
Yes. So I find this ironic because this is also one of a game that combines physical and digital components.
Yeah.
You are basically trying to make a recipe in Soviet Russia.
Does
and-
gameplay you?
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
But the recipe is you're trying to make a color. So you have a handful of cards that are all these different objects that have color on them, but they also have some sort of toxicity in them. And you're trying to combine them to match the target color. But you play with an app. You put your phone on the table with the camera facing up, and you need to get this particular color or shade of pink.
And it's not a color theory game, so it doesn't appear to be like, oh, you need outside knowledge of like red and yellow make orange or whatever.
You mean basic kindergarten knowledge?
Well, not everybody remembers that. Apparently, people have had issues. I'm just saying.
I read books. I didn't use crayons.
You don't mix colors with crayons. That's not.
Oh yeah, you do.
There, if you like hash it, you
Paint,
can,
yes.
like,
Crayons, no.
So, you basically have a hand of cards. You choose what color you're going to play. You scan it into the meat grinder,
The meat grinder.
iPhone app, and it gives you a new color. But you're trying to reach the target color before the ingredients you have added become too toxic to consume.
Right.
Basically.
A
So
card
you
game
kill
about
your-
throwing colorful stuff in a meat grinder while trying not to kill anyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's a great description.
Yep. So it's basically there's a kind of a very small, endearingly cute German indie studio trying to develop this, and they wanted to make a game that combined digital and physical components. and make it fun because they hadn't seen one that they really enjoyed, but they also wanted to make it really accessible to people who couldn't sit and read through rules.
Yeah.
So they want to just make a game that you could just throw down and play and go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ridiculous. Like I kind of have a feeling you just kind of need to watch the video.
Oh, yeah.
And see how it plays out.
Well, and we were talking about the physical digital interaction. I think this is a great example of the accessibility thing, because you can make this. You don't need the app. Presumably, you write on the cards. This card plus this card, but there's like just a lot to track.
Well, I mean, I also do think that the combining of colors.
Yeah.
They would have had to have changed that because that I don't think would have worked just
Well, they would
physically.
have had to use numbers or like they'd
And
have to do something.
who likes numbers when you could choose colors?
I know, right?
Because I think part of the
Mathematicians, accountants.
But I think colorblind is a big issue. But I think part of this is that they wanted to make it so that if it was numbers, you could just communicate and say, I've got a 5 and you've got a 7.
Yeah.
But I think that when you have these colors, you have to be like, well, I've got a light blue.
But I have a much darker blue.
I have a light purple.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the humor was trying to get people to explain their colors because you can't just show the card.
Yeah.
So,
It looks
very
cool.
weird. And again, I find it very ironic that this is kind of merging digital and physical in the same moment where we have kind of like the other end of the complication ambition spectrum of Teburu.
It's a zeitgeist. There's a lot of people in the industry who are very excited for the future.
I like the future.
I like the future.
I don't know yet.
So, we also have the North, which has
I remembered.
4 days left.
Which could be anything,
So
really.
the
It's a
North,
name.
yep.
Sorry, guys. Not cool. I apologize.
The North is describing itself as a combo building game, which I think basically translates to it's deck building and hand management off of a single central like 60 card deck. So players are kind of building their very, very small decks, but it's less about shuffling the deck and kind of building the engine there and more about kind of managing and cycling through maybe a dozen cards at a time.
Yeah.
And the cards are also interesting in that there's a bunch of elements on the front, like normal, but the back of the card also has a different element to it. So you can, sometimes you're playing it for the back, sometimes you're playing it off the top of the draw deck. There's a lot of like weird, different things. And it seems like it's trying to take, again, hand management and deck building and boil it down to kind of the minimum required and seeing how that plays out when you mix it all together. And then the theme is that you're reprogramming like ancient robots in kind of a post-apocalyptic wasteland of some kind.
Oh, that's why they called it the North. That makes sense now. Wait, no, still doesn't.
Yep.
Names are hard.
But the art is kind of very haunting and it's very moody. I like it a lot.
Art's
So
cool.
it's really neat. It's from like a Small Box Games was the company, and they're trying to focus on
Small games that aren't giant Kickstarter board games. Just like, hey, look,
Kickstarter
here's
board
60 cards. There's your whole game.
This is definitely not a Kickstarter board game.
That's good though. I like small games. They fit on my shelf better.
Yeah.
But now you have 4 days left to determine whether this fits
Oh, I'm
on
not
your
buying this
shelf.
game.
There.
Because you can't remember.
I can't. No, I won't remember.
There.
So speaking of other games, how about that? We have Tasty Humans, the board game. So 4 days left, and this is really literally Bejeweled or Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Or Bejeweled or
Candy Crush Tetris, but in a dragon's stomach.
Yep.
You eat
Candy Crush Tetris.
you eat adventurers, and then you drop their body parts into your stomach to make scoring patterns.
So you have the heads, the helmets, the
Guys,
gauntlets.
this is the one. This is the one we've all been waiting for. I know. I'm really excited too. Try and contain yourself, but pack it right now.
Yeah, so you're basically just trying to build patterns. Apparently, like a couple of those tiles will allow you to score. So you're trying to build up things that each of those scoring tiles will do around it, and then when someone's full, the game's over. You score.
Yeah.
This is the game that would get my mom into board games.
Yeah. You see,
She's always wanted to know what's in a troll's
No,
stomach.
she's just always on her phone playing those stupid games, and I can't. Like, I'm like,
Now she'd be on the table playing the stupid game.
They're
right.
not
And then she can
stupid.
show me how to play it because I don't understand. Like, you drop a candy on this other candy, and if these candies are alike but not these candies,
Like,
they
those
explode.
games have gotten very complex. Like, there's nothing wrong. They're not stupid. They could be very fun.
Don't look at me. Look at him.
I called them stupid. That was me.
I like those games.
Because when you run out of lives, you can just pay to get more.
Yeah.
So would you
Or
play?
wait.
So are you excited to play one of those games in a dragon's stomach?
Yeah, well, I think
On a board.
The theme for this is definitely something that's compelling. I think it's a theme that kind of makes sense for the mechanics.
Yep.
Like I like when themes and mechanics, like you eat them, and the actual adventures is like a cleric or something. Oh, and that they have abilities too, which the cleric will like heal your stomach ache. So there's kind of a cool thing going there, and then they break down into the bits. So I think it's.
I
well
will
put
absolutely
together.
play it. I'm just not going to buy it.
Speaking of things people might buy, we have perfect board game sleeves. It looks like Emma brought some visual aids.
Okay, so.
So this, well, just to be clear, these are not the sleeves that are in here.
Right.
So this is a Kickstarter project, 5 days left. It is all about getting the sleeves you need for your particular game. And if you are not a sleeve aficionado like Emma, you may not realize how difficult it is to find the sleeves that fit the weirdly sized, miniaturized, kind of square, sometimes oblong shapes of cards that you have. So this Kickstarter has like a bunch of different sleeve sizes.
Yes.
And it says which particular games need which
Exactly.
particular sizes.
Yeah. If you haven't been in the industry very long, if you've never tried to sleeve your cards, you might not realize there is no standard. Certain companies have their own standards. So Fantasy Flight, for example, has a standard set of sleeves, but then another game will have a card size that's 3 millimeters wider and 6 millimeters taller, and you try to use those sleeves and they're just not going to fit. So it's actually kind of a nightmare. Having worked at Mox and people come in, does this sleeve work for this game? I would literally have to take the demo game out, open the sleeves, put the card into the sleeve to see if it would fit. Because a lot of how you do this is digging through BoardGameGeek and doing research and being like, does this? And then you have
This is your product, people who work at board game stores.
And well, then you have a whole thread about it too, because people disagree. They're like, well, it kind of fits, but it's a little bit of a squeeze getting it in there.
I
And then other
really
people
prefer
like,
my card to wiggle around inside a little
You know,
bit.
it sure is a shame we can't just not ever use sleeves and have games designed to not need them.
oh my gosh. Well,
Like, you did specifically put the note in the agenda of Derek doesn't like
Here
sleeves.
we
Derek
go.
doesn't like
Derek doesn't
sleeves.
like sleeves.
So I'm
This is
saying-
common knowledge around here.
the one. So they didn't say whether this is going
Notice
to
his
be
shirt. No sleeves.
matte or glossy, but I'm just like, okay. So if you were going to take sleeves, I'm like, I have to, and I brought some for you too. You
Oh,
see
good.
the.
You told me that
Thanks, I hate it.
You obviously handed them to me to make me judge one or the other, and I have judged that one wanting.
Wait, no, okay. So this is the Dragon Shield. This is like the Crown Royale, the Lamborghini of sleeves. So this is the 120
This is a cheap
microns.
Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, but this is the one where I can see the card. This is small.
Lafroy.
LaCroix. Oh boy.
No,
Yes, yes. Let's bring it from that to canned water. That will make me so much happier.
So this, and like you'll see the different, because this is just like a generic, it came with something sleeve, glossy, very slippery, and you can like feel the weight.
Slippery makes shuffling easier.
No, it makes it so they stick together, and then you like try
Oh,
and like
no.
put it down somewhere, and it like slides off the table.
You threw.
We
that
are
off
allowed
the
to
table.
throw
I don't
these?
think we are playing games with you.
No,
who
this
are
is
not using my
awesome.
copies of games.
This is a dramatization of
Wow.
what can happen in
Yeah,
real
it's a
life.
dramatization like one of those made-for-TV commercials where it's like, do you not know how to use your cards? Having trouble shuffling? You should get sleeves. And you're like, who does that?
People in
Like
commercials.
that.
And Emma.
I don't know how to tie my shoes. It made me fall down.
So, what are you trying to say with this?
I don't-
Do you have a point?
I'm glad
point.
you beat me to my question.
Okay. So this is the 120 micron. I'm just
Okay.
gonna keep going. Sleeve.
Sure, go ahead.
You can feel it has a better weight to it. So it's like a sturdier sleeve. It's gonna be less
Why do
likely
I want
to.
weight on my sleeve?
Because you want.
Don't I? Oh, no, I
To
want,
protect your
I
cards,
want-
Derek. I know
Yeah.
this concept is
I
really
understand
tough.
that, but like,
They're there to protect your cards.
When things weigh more, they feel more valuable. It has a heft in your hand.
There we go, and we've just explained capitalism
All right,
in games
so-
to everybody.
so wait, let me guess next. Next, you want solid gold sleeves for your entire commander deck?
Ooh, yeah, like.
Well,
No.
the commander deck would be too heavy to lift.
In other news, there is a Kickstarter that can provide you sleeves if you are crazy and want to sleeve everything in your life.
And it'll tell you what size to pick, so you don't even have to make decisions.
You don't even have to
Yes.
argue with us.
Also, they're selling them by weight, which is interesting. So.
Of course they
So
are.
see, if they're smaller, you get more.
This will make your
Yeah.
card feel more expensive.
And they're pickupable at Essen. So that's for for anyone who's going to Essen or for non-US. Essen? Essen is.
It sounds like a type of shampoo.
Essen is the biggest board game convention in the world.
Oh, right. Yes, I've heard of that.
So that if you don't want to have to deal with shipping and you just want to take a trip, like for the cost of shipping,
If
you
you
can take
don't
a
wanna
trip
have
to
to deal
Germany.
with
Then your
shipping.
cards will feel real
Have a
expensive.
vacation.
They better be damn heavy at that point.
So, you don't need to declare just this 50-pound deck of cards.
Clearly, we have touched on the
Nerves of everybody at the table.
the deep division in our community over sleeves.
Yeah.
Wow, the war is never ending.
So, Dwellings of Everdale is
Eldervale.
Eldervale is another Kickstarter.
Everdale is where Fantasy Archie goes to school.
Is another Kickstarter. 6 days left. This is an epic worker placement game, and it is definitely. I feel like we can make it an honorary Kickstarter board game.
Kickstarter board game?
Is there enough pieces?
It's got a lot. So here's the thing: it's got a lot of pieces.
Okay.
It has some minis,
Okay.
but it's not an adventure game where you lay out a modular board and fight. It's a worker placement game.
That's fine. How's the art?
The art is very fantasy epic.
Oh, okay.
Like interesting fantasy epic or generic fantasy epic?
That's going to depend on the viewer.
That's fair.
So, like, I think the one that I actually really liked is they've got the retail version of the box, which is a lot of like giant monsters everywhere. But then there's like they had a stretch goal to have an alternate cover that Kickstarter backers could choose that was much cleaner, and it was just this giant crocodile Godzilla monster thing. And I thought that was a much more kind of evocative cover.
Now, even though this is a worker placement game, you still fight monsters. So
Yeah, so like it's a worker placement like tableau building game.
yeah, it meets my requirements.
But you can still go fight other players. You can still go hunt monsters on the board. I kind of wanted to compare this to Terra Mystica. Like, I haven't played this, but I don't think gameplay is like Terra Mystica. But in the sense that there are a bunch of different economies that you need to juggle, I feel like it's that level of complexity.
Okay.
So if you're looking for one of those lots of knobs and levers to turn and pull and tweak, and you want a huge game with lots of components, then and this is also it's from Breaking Games too. So this is not like an unknown studio putting this out either.
Right.
That's cool. So with these worker placement games and tableau building, you don't use a lot of cards.
No, I think there's a lot of like component cards you'll put things on.
Yeah.
But
Do they have sleeves that can fit those, Emma, for the...
Well, I mean, it depends if they are a standard size sleeve.
so are you
But a
now
standard size
gonna
card-
tell me that you're gonna sleeve your cardboard components too?
Can you
Well,
do
it depends
that?
on how many microns they are, Derek.
Couldn't we
Or-
just make the game?
Yeah.
Make the game
Well,
not
I
need
mean,
sleeves.
For that, I would probably use my machine where you put it in there and it
laminator?
the laminator because it covers it with plastic.
No,
and
no,
then
you are
it's
never
just-
touching any of my games. Anyway, the components that you would want for this, that I do fully support, are not sleeves but component trays, because those are useful.
Those are useful. I'm glad that more games are doing those.
Yeah,
now.
well, so this
Yeah.
apparently comes with a whole bunch, and apparently, I think they worked with Game Trays with a Z.
With a Z. Oh,
yeah.
And they're sculpted around what you need. So
Yeah.
I think there's like 8 different factions you can play, and you have like your player board that explains what your rules are. You know, when you have a faction. But that player board like will click into the game tray for your faction to keep your pieces in.
Nice.
So it looks like they're really well designed there. Like I always like it when a game actually thinks about how do you unpack this game, how do you repack this game.
Yep.
'Cause
And so many games don't think
there's a
about
lot
it.
of games I love that you then have to spend like 20 minutes figuring out how to squeeze it
Or
back
just
in
like you have to go to the store and buy like 100 Ziploc bags
Yep.
and rubber bands to
Wait,
keep
you
everything
don't
together.
just have hundreds of different size Ziploc bags?
Yeah, I haven't sold weed since my 20s, so no.
We have that.
Yeah, I have that too. That's somewhere where I can cross. Our Venn diagram will cross over as to
Bags, you see?
anytime you have a Ziploc bag about this big or smaller,
Yeah.
you think, well, I might as well save that in
Right.
case I need it.
Yeah. So we can agree on bags. See?
Peace at last amongst our kingdom.
can
So-
hear the trumpets a playing.
The next Kickstarter also has 6 days left. This is Faza, a classic alien invasion game, and this is the video for this is really cute. The whole campaign is very adorable. You should definitely check that out. But it's a cooperative game where you're kind of dealing with these 3 alien motherships that are ruining your world and your city, and you're playing the resistance, so you're trying to kill drones and like take down the motherships and work with the alien sympathizers, and it's very, very cute and kind of executed, I think.
So like Mars Attacks.
Kind of like, I think it's a little bit more serious than that, but not a ton more. Like it's still that kind of same
Independence
area.
Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like cute Independence Day, I think is how I would describe this.
So it's adorable, but you're getting blasted off the face of the earth.
Sure.
Cool.
You get to punch an alien in the face
Yeah.
or something, probably.
Yeah. And Jeff Goldblum's actually a cute puppy.
In particular, the thing I thought was neat is like obviously as a co-op game, you're kind of playing against an AI of a sort, but it has a difficulty like a level to set for the AI. So you can have like the AI has different kind of protocols you follow on its turn to see what it does.
Like it generates this many of this thing if it's on easy, you know, and much more of this thing if you're on hard.
And I think there's some things that only happen on different difficulties. So that was an interesting element that I don't think as many co-op games have explored. So if you're into co-op games, as my wife is, and thus I am, I would check this out.
All right.
Do you know if this is demoing at Gen Con?
I don't know.
Okay.
We can
Some of
find
them-
out though.
Well,
some
'cause-
of them that we will be talking about are.
But because remember, a lot of these Kickstarters are independent folks.
Right.
So they might have individual events, but a lot of these folks don't have booths to just
Right.
very easily be based out of.
Yeah.
Some
That's
of them
why
do.
they're running these Kickstarters.
Like Dwellings of Eldervale, Breaking Games has an event space. They have a booth. I strongly suspect that you can go either talk to them or see some kind of in-production components.
Yeah.
But some of these others might not be there in a centralized presence.
Right.
But speaking of things that I thought were cute, I feel like you're going to take this one over for me.
Why do you do this to me?
What? Why do I do this to you?
Why?
What horrible person would share a thing with you that they thought you would like?
Isle of Cats.
I like them.
I love cats. Isle of Cats.
Yes.
So this, when I first, like it is cats, right? When I first heard about it, it made me think of Isle of Dogs,
Sure.
which is like the Wes
Wes Anderson
hipster,
movie, yeah.
and it's just Wes Anderson. It's just so.
Our Venn diagrams are drifting further apart again. Drifting
Okay.
further apart.
Okay.
Danger.
And like, not necessarily cute.
Sure.
I would say, it's a little like
Twee?
I don't know, twee for Wes Anderson. Yeah, but this is not anything like that. They're not related in any way whatsoever, and this is adorable. It's a polyonymo placement game. So Tetronimo again, like Tetrising your pieces together. You have a boat, and you have to fit all of your cats, your cat tiles of different
You're
shapes.
trying to rescue as many cats off the island as you can.
Right. I mean, which is hopefully all of them, because what happens to the cats that are left on the island?
They die.
I wasn't going to talk about that part. I was going to leave that unsaid.
They don't die. They cling to the side of the boat, and they just have like they get
You
a
just
like.
don't score points.
They're
for
just
them.
wet cats.
Yeah, they're just
and
wet.
nobody
They
likes
have a
that.
less pleasant
Cats
journey.
don't like it. People don't like it.
And you're
So-
trying to keep the cat families together too, which is very adorable. Like keep your cats, the families, they're all huddling, the different types of cats. Amazing art for all of these cats that are like different
Cat meeples.
styles. Cat meeples.
Fish
Fish
meeples.
I'm picturing the sequel to the game that they get off of the island and they make it to the mainland, but then of course they are separated and imprisoned immediately again.
And then you could play
They shouldn't have tried to come here.
Catan with the meeples.
So
That was for you, Bonsai.
For Bonsai's thing.
anyways, this is one of the many games that will be at Gen Con and will be, obviously since it's Kickstarter, it's not produced yet, but they will have, it's on the preview list. So if going back to that BoardGameGeek Gen Con preview list, that's one of the games on there.
I would actually like to check that out.
On there, right?
Yeah.
Because it's cool. And from the description, I think it said it was a 60 to 90 minute game. So although it's adorable, there is a fairly complex strategic element to it. So all of your desires, if you want to play a strategic game with cats, you can do that. If you want to play an adorable game, with cats. If you want to play any style of game with adorable cats, you can do that.
Well, this also seems to be one of those everyone builds their own kind of games.
Yeah.
Which are not my kind of games, but I do know that people love Barren Park or other things where you're building your own, you're kind of cultivating your own garden of cute cats, basically.
Your own cat garden.
And I can't go over and mess it up.
Right.
Gotta pet them all.
Which is what you want, right? You want to go and if you just shove my whole ship and just
I just want to put one rat on your ship and watch all the cats chase.
Or just one dog.
Yes, that's it.
Or just throw a cannonball into the other person's ship.
But it is very
you
cute.
can blow up people's ships?
No,
Probably
you
not.
can't do that. It's just
Do you think she would support this game
example.
if it was the game of collect the cats and then murder them? I'm pretty sure that would not be.
Maybe they're like cartoon cats.
They come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that we were kind of talking about too, though, is you were trying to resist the urge to back this.
Oh, yeah.
And I was trying to encourage you to
spend
go
all
over
my
the
money.
edge because the Kickstarter version has more special cats. It has the fish meeples. It has a whole bunch of extra components.
And you can get the special version that has bigger cat meeples.
How can you say no to that?
How can
you say no?
Can you?
So this is what I do, basically. This is kind of my thing, is to see, here's the thing. If I can tempt you into irresponsibly spending money on this Kickstarter, then that justifies all the money I have spent irresponsibly on other Kickstarters.
Yeah, you're doing this. You're doing this, breaking her down to make yourself feel
Absolutely,
better. That's a very common tactic.
So this game does look good. It looks adorable, but also fun and strategic. Scratches a lot of itches, so definitely check it out.
Because of the claws.
Yes.
The cute little claws.
And that is it for Kickstarters this week.
That is it for Kickstarters. And guys, that's it for the show, too. That's all we got for TableTakes today. Well, make sure you come back and see us every Friday. We are TableTakes presented by Gen Con. Stick around after this broadcast and you will see the new release rundown with
Zulu's Board Game Cafe.
With Zulu's Board Game Cafe today. That's exciting. Don't forget Peter's Fireside Chats on Wednesday, the Brothers Murph on Mondays, and there's one other thing, isn't there?
Gen Con News on Tuesday.
Gen Con News on Tuesday, the newest one. I'm sorry I forgot about that, but I didn't write any of it down, so I think I did pretty good today. We will see you all next week on TableTakes. My name is Christian. I'm here with Emma and Derek. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.